Hey, John. Hello and
Hey,
welcome to Eat Sleep Code, the official Telerik podcast. I'm your host, Ed Charbeneau. With me today is my co-host, John Bristowe.
how's it going? How are you?
Good. I'm good. Can you believe it's March? It
Marching forward.
seems like it's just flying by now that
Oh yeah,
2020
yeah.
is
They
behind
just it's
us.
just an all. It's just a big blur. So
It's just a big blurry mess.
yep.
Well, we've got quite the show ahead of us here. I've got a lot of articles I picked up over the last week. I've been trying to re-educate myself on some CSS stuff.
Okay.
So I've been doing some live stream shows about CSS Grid and whatnot, and I've been reading on the CSS Tricks website quite a bit. So I thought this was a good read. This one is about hiding content responsibly,
Yes.
and there's some methods of hiding CSS values or hiding content using CSS values rather in HTML. And these have consequences on things like screen readers and whatnot. And
Yes.
if you're using something like display none or visibility hidden or both, they have different effects on how screen readers and other accessibility features access that information. So this was a nice little quick refresher
hmm
on which ones to use and when and what they affect and when to use ARIA hidden and those type of things.
hmm
So if you haven't seen this before, just do a quick Google Bing for it or go to CSS Tricks and look up hiding content responsibly. It's a good little piece of advice to have in your web toolkit, right?
mm
Make sure you keep things accessibility friendly.
we've come so far since using transparent pixels.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you ever did that hack, but back in the day, if you wanted to position something appropriately with padding and margins and things like that, because for whatever reason, browsers were inconsistent with that, you'd use these one by one transparent GIFs. So yeah,
Yeah. I
long time since then, but it's great. It's great that we got this stuff going now where we're concerned about ARIA and other aspects of hiding content. So
yeah, I don't know if I ranted about this on this specific show or not before, but at my old job we had an application go down, completely just burned to the ground. And IT uh, and I were pointing fingers at each other, blaming each other for this meltdown. And I told them that the app hadn't been updated in a good year. This was a piece of canned software we bought, wasn't like a custom thing, and we haven't rolled any updates out on it. So the only way it has gone down is because IT has done something bad to it, and I blamed their firewall, and they shot back for a good long time saying it wasn't their fault. And then by the end of the day, I got a phone call. They said, "Well, we updated the firmware on our such and such a firewall, and it took a what do you call it? What do they call those fingerprint things that they use for virus scanning? But they had basically a whitelist or blacklist that got hit with this update, and
oh, okay,
inside of that list was a file that probably a million applications have in them called transparency.gif.
yeah, yeah,
And I guess some virus picked up this file and it was in some kind of malware or something,
yeah,
just like the rest of all HTML land. And
hmm
the app that we were running was a desktop application that was using this for something. And instead of gracefully throwing an error when it didn't receive the file, it just completely burned to the ground.
There you go.
So
Well,
complete crash and burn because of transparency.gif.
there you go. Perfect.
Yeah, all of that because of a firewall update. So these things happen. This is
hmm
thankfully not the world I live in today, but I'm sure this kind of stuff still happens, unfortunately.
Oh yeah,
Anyhow,
oh yeah. Things burn to the ground all the time.
Yeah,
It's like a
I don't
forest
know.
fire, right? You want things to burn sometimes because it's like a process of renewal, right? A
It's
forest
a
burns and it clears the dead wood for
mm,
all the new ideas that are coming out, so, but those things will
yeah,
burn to the ground too eventually. So,
yeah. I will not name the vendor of that software, by the way.
okay.
It's a big one. It's a big one. A lot of people use it, but apparently there's no try catch around um, their image loading mechanics there. Anyhow, speaking of uh, transparency.gif, this is the modern day transparency. So this is, I think I picked this one up from somebody you may know. Dee Dee Walsh was sharing this on her
Oh,
Twitter.
okay. Yep. Yep.
So I picked this up off Dee Dee's feed this week. I thought this was cool. It's a little CSS generator tool for glass morphism.
Yes.
So this is like a transparency. It's like Vista. Was it Vista that had this kind
Oh,
of UI?
it's a common UI pattern basically.
Yeah, it's a common
It's like
one,
a
but it was
frosted glass panel
yeah,
basically.
yeah. There was a version of Windows, not Vista. Is it Windows 7?
Well, there
Windows
was
7 that
Arrow,
had
the
this?
UI in
Yeah.
Windows that was included for transparency. So, and you had to have a certain kind of graphics card with a certain type of graphics driver to enable it. So,
So this is kind of it had its heyday back then, but it's still fairly useful on the web. I thought this was cool. You can
uh-huh,
set your transparency of it, and
sure,
you can colorize this if you'd like to have a CSS fancy color to
nice,
add to it. Use a CSS variable in there, by the way. Use a CSS variable in there instead, and you can let your users pick their color. How
sure,
fancy would that be?
yeah,
You could pick like the blur you could see on this bubble here. So if you're listening and not watching, this is like a glass UI, like a Windows 7 era UI for the web. It's a cool little CSS generator though. I like that one.
yeah. I like
Uh,
these. They're single serving sites. They're basically designed to fit one and only one purpose, and they do that job really well. So, what I might like to see in here as well is some additional capabilities. Addition. This is like the sort of box around it. There
mhm.
might be some other things they may want to use. Layout and things like that you can embed within it. But yeah, I like it. It's good.
So you gotta love the obligatory use of unicorns in here as well. I
Yeah,
mean, can't go wrong with unicorns on the page.
yeah. It would be nice to see settings for like border radius as well. If you could have sliders for those and other things like that, so you can make them circles and things. So.
Yeah. I think this is just like a background like that you can apply to anything right now.
Yes.
But
So the border
if you
radius
want
you
to,
could make much higher and create a circle, et cetera, et cetera. So there's lots of things you could do.
so what you could do is use yet another generator. See how I line that up? All right.
Yes.
This one I think is cool too. This one I found sharing somewhere on Twitter as well, I think. Um, this one is called getwaves.io.
Right.
And this one has different wave generators that you can supply to create a SVG wave shape that you can use in your background images. And I'm wondering, I may have to do a mashup next week, John, and see if I can glassify the wave. So,
Okay.
I mean, why not, right?
Yep. Yep.
You can glassify the wave. What's really cool here is kind of what you're talking about. They should have done with the glassification thing is there's a slider here that
Oh,
you
I
can
see. For
use
randomness.
to,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
you
see.
can increase the randomness. This could go really cool, like if you're working on a website that is for like a paint store, or maybe you just have like a really like squishy UI pattern that you want to follow with like
Right.
round, squishy buttons and stuff like that. I've seen some pretty cool UI examples where it's kind of like this anamorphic like shape that you work with instead of the typical like square button. You've got like these buttons that kind of blend into these blob patterns and stuff, and it's really cool and artful and stuff.
Yeah.
um
So it
Not
turns,
sure.
I was having flashbacks to my computer science classes. It turns out this is actually not terribly difficult to do. This is using a technique called interpolation. And if you've done a computer science course or a CS course or a mathematics course, this is
Hmm.
actually what we do to convert from analog to digital.
Hmm.
And so these sorts of charts are just simple representations of various values in a matrix. And so um, these things aren't terribly complex, but it's what we do all the time in computers, in hardware, basically. So your software and your hardware is doing this sort of operation all the time when going from the real world to the virtual or digital world. Trying to interpret certain values and make either a one or zero from them. There's all kinds of algorithms around these things. Sorry, this is a bit of a divergence, but yeah, it just brought me back to those days of calculating those values and determining what they are and how to use this as a form of creating waves. I could have used this actually in university because I had to draw these things all the time.
Yeah. I was looking around to see if I had my world's smallest waveform generator that I built when I was in electronics. I had we had a project to do. We had to build some um, piece of equipment or whatever. I can't remember what the
Hmm.
exact project was, but you've worked with me enough, John. I don't do anything um, simple.
No,
We just like jump into the deep end of the pool on
sure,
everything.
why not? Head first.
So, in electronics, you have these giant boxes. At least they were giant back when I was in school. They're probably just like the size of an iPhone now.
Yeah.
But they were these huge boxes, and they're waveform generators. And
Yes, I
basically,
remember
they
them.
put out
Yeah.
waves like this, but electronic waves, like
Yes.
sine, sawtooth, like digital square wave, etc.
Yeah, you measure current with those. You determine whether the signal is clean, etc. They were massive, and they would have like a handle on them because they were so heavy.
Hmm.
So,
So what I did is I set out to make one that I could run off a pair of 9-volt batteries, and I built it. It was about the size of a modern webcam,
okay.
and it had two 9-volt batteries that clipped into the back of it. So what I did is I found a PCB circuit board kit that you could etch your own boards, and I created a surface mount board, and I soldered all the parts on it and hooked
Yep.
the batteries to it. You had to amplify it to make it do anything, but that's not hard. I mean, finding an amplifier is not hard. Creating the waveforms was the part of the project that I had to
Yes.
complete. So I had a little waveform generator. It was pocket sized, so I could go into my lab and pull out my little little waveform generator. And I actually ended up using it later in class when we got into digital. So I put clocks on it, and it was powerful enough to power the digital circuit clocks. So
Yeah.
I didn't need like this giant piece of machinery. So it was the envy of class.
I can only
So
imagine what people think of us when we talk about these old stories. They're like, then I connected it to an etch a sketch, and then I got it to draw something, and it's like, eek. Like kids these days must just look at us as like, would you get a donkey too, and like have pots and pans clanging up against it, to do this work you supposedly did, So anyway,
so if you look closely, you can see that is not the waveform generator, but that is a radio that is hand
yeah,
built in the
there you
background.
go.
The waveform generator is probably as big as the black square on the
Oh,
top
okay.
there.
Yep, yep.
If I were to have it, it's in a box somewhere. I have to drag it out if I knew where it was. Um, and then half the people don't even know what I'm talking about anyway, so it's moot point. But
That's all right.
the idea was it was a big thing. I made it a small thing, and it did what the graphics on the website looked like.
All right. Perfect.
When I was your age back in the day,
No,
and then
come
I
on.
walked 2 miles in the snow uphill to
Yes,
get
uphill
to
both
class
ways.
to show it off.
Yes.
Um, anyhow, more modern day topic here, John. One that's near and dear to your heart. Okay, maybe not. So as you might know, I've been dabbling with VR a lot.
Yes. What
Uh,
now? What did you do now, Ed?
I found a way to make it lazy. This is great.
Okay, what more can we do?
So one of the benefits to VR is it gets you up and out of your seat and you're moving around, and sure, you have a thing strapped on your face, but you are getting some exercise. So the fine
Okay, if you
people at
say so.
Oculus said, this is too much exercise. We need to go ahead and allow you to mark your couch
Didn't
in
IKEA
the
do this? I thought IKEA did this with their app. You could mark out their furniture in your room.
so IKEA's is a AR app.
Yes.
So an augmented reality app where you can put
Okay.
a faux piece of furniture in your room to see
Yes. Will
an
it fit?
augmented piece. You can see where it fits in the room, see how it goes
Hmm.
with your decor, etc. This is taking a physical couch and marking it in your virtual space so you can sit on it in VR.
I'm done. I don't want to talk about this anymore. It's just so
I knew you'd love
great,
this, John.
wonderful, great. Moving on.
I knew you'd love this.
Who has a couch
So
like this, by the way? That looks like a hockey stick.
it's a terrible rendering of a couch, which is quite
Yeah.
ironic because the rendering that you're inside of when you're in this mode, there are couches in it that look better than this, but I guess since this one is real time, placed in real time,
Yeah.
it has to be the rendering has to be dumbed down or something. The other ones might be pre-rendered or
And who
whatnot.
lives in a house like that? That looks like right out of Blade Runner.
Oh, this is a really cool one. This is one of the Oculus environments that's
Okay.
in the headset.
Yeah.
And it's a fuller dome. Do you know what a fuller dome is?
You mean it's like a it sounds like to me like it's one of those what's that place that you go and you watch
It's
the
a
night
geodesic
sky?
dome.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
a
just like a it's
geodesic
just like
dome.
a yeah, yeah.
So geodesic domes, if you don't
Also
know
known
what
as
they
a
are,
planetarium.
yeah,
Sorry. Had to.
they're Epcot.
Yeah.
So there was a guy named Fuller that kind of coined that shape. Uh, he made it an architectural thing, and
Just cause
he
he
had
cause he had to feel important, right?
yeah. There's actually a house that he owned somewhere in England, I believe. It was on a show I was watching not too long ago that looks a lot like this. Uh,
Okay.
the virtual reality version of it, I think, looks a little bit more clean on the inside. The other one had like a little bit more structure, like rooms and stuff, but this is like an open concept dome that's based on his work, and it's really like mid-century modern and very like hip inside,
Yeah.
but it's empty as far as like things you can actually physically sit on because it's virtual. So now you can bring your sofa into VR at the click of a button. Um, so this uses cameras on the headset to do the infrared tracking of what's in the room with you, and I guess there is a function on the headset now that can identify or help you identify where the couch in your room is. So you can mark it, and then once it's marked, it shows up in your room. So if you need to take a seat while you're playing your VR games, it's there for you to sit on. I think it's really
Great.
cool.
Frank Lloyd Wright, eat your heart out.
uh,
That's
yeah,
right. You think you got something going? Here we go.
I think
All
it's
right.
really cool. Um,
All right.
yeah, I think the architect that kind of, like I said, discovered the shape as like an architectural pattern. Could you imagine like having the ability to just put a helmet on and like visualize this thing and before you built it, rather than like I'm sure it was like built out of like sticks and paper and whatever the heck else back then. This
You
is
know,
somebody.
this has been around for a while. It's called your imagination. Sorry.
Oh my
Anyway.
gosh. The Fuller Dome home is a real thing. Here we go. I got
All
the
right.
link. Let me get it on the right screen. Uh, wait, this
There
tab.
are houses like this that I've seen
Here we
before,
go.
real houses.
Yeah,
So they are kind of cool, but
yeah,
they some of them are kind of you look at them from the outside like, what is that?
yeah. So they are a thing. Oh, here's a really good one, like looking one that resembles the one that's in VR. What is this doing? Wow. I don't know if you're seeing what I'm seeing,
It's going
but
kind of wonky. So
yeah,
there you go.
I don't know what that was all about.
Okay.
There we go. So yeah, they actually do look like this in real life. They're pretty cool. It's a neat shape, and I think this probably has malware on it, so I'm going to close it. Anyhow, you can sit in one of those neat homes and pretend it's your own in virtual reality now.
Okay. I'll show you a home that's actually not too far from my house. Um, I'll just send it to you in private chat here. But this is a house that's near the couple of houses near my house where I live in Australia. And these ones are kind of cool looking. I don't know if you've ever seen a house like this before, but it's sort of like that same idea. These look like two over easy eggs or spaceships, but yeah.
I'm trying to get it. I've got it sharing in a way that it won't let me
All right, never
move
mind.
tabs
So
here.
they're
No, I've
cool
got it.
looking
I've got
houses. All right,
it. There we go. Nope, that's not it either. I lost my browser now.
that's okay. I can still
We're in
see
the
it.
future. All right, there
That's
we go.
right. Yeah, so
There
these
it
things
is.
are actually quite close to where I live. They actually do look like that, and they overlook the ocean. You drive past them, you can see them perched up on a hill, and they're actually really cool looking, I think. They're definitely different. But if you scroll down, you can see like what they look like when people are kind of in them and such. So, and I
Going
think
to
I think your browser's going
everything
wonky
again.
again.
I wonder if it's because of
So
the way I'm sharing this video.
I don't know.
It's
So
not happy. It's
this is
doing it when I
fun.
scroll.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So these look to me like what's the guy's name? There's another architect slash social engineer, and he used to run something called the Venus Project. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay, so this is the architectural stuff is cool. I'm not sure if I'm on board with the social engineering aspects of it. It wasn't anything like nefarious,
My
It
God,
wasn't
what is this?
this guy wasn't trying to
This
take
is
over the
Buck
world or
Rogers.
anything, but his intentions with the social engineering stuff were well-intentioned social engineering, not
Wow.
negative.
Okay.
But he had all these really cool architectural designs that fit into this perfect utopia that he was trying to build.
Yeah. Do you have a crystal in the middle of your hand, a la Lode Runner as well? You know?
As far as I know, I think this gentleman has passed away
Okay.
recently, but I mean, up until he did pass, see, I don't want to say somebody's died when they haven't. It's terrible, but I know he was quite old and he was still doing tours in person of his property.
Jacques
Jacques
Fresco.
Fresco, yeah.
All right.
But he used to have a property down in Florida that you could go visit and see all of these creations of his. And he would tell you about his resource-based economy and all his social engineering stuff, which we won't get into. But the architectural patterns were really cool, I thought. And he had all these domes and bubbles and stuff like you just showed that's near you.
You know what
Uh,
happens when you have designs like that is you end up getting really bored. I've been to downtowns and central business districts where everything is perfectly planned out and you reject it as a human being. I think we like messy things. We
yeah,
grew up in the jungle, on the savannah, whatever. We like things, no straight lines, basically. You start to make everything precise and clean and everything like that. People start to reject it. So,
yeah, too much stark white as well.
yes.
So back to the subject of the show. This isn't like the Architectural Digest channel, but
No, but I would go off on that too. So,
yeah,
there you go.
especially those like 50s where they're trying to come up with like different things because of new materials like plastic and stuff. I was fascinated
My
with
my
like
favorite for those, I know we're going off on a tangent here, but my favorite for those were the circa 1940s and 50s ads around them with the vaudeville sort of, not vaudeville, but like that sort of,
the home of the future.
yeah, the the home of the future. Look, no straight lines here, you know.
Yeah, there's a really good one on self-driving cars I'll have to share with you.
Sure,
It's
sure, yeah.
just hilarious. They're like kicked back while it's driving and they're like
I
smoking
know,
cigars and
I
drinking
know.
wine and it's like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, even if they're self-driving, you're not allowed to do that stuff. Sorry.
Oh, your liver's still going to explode, dude. I mean, come on, you
Yeah,
can't drink every day. So,
it's fun stuff though. So if we were speaking of driving, playing this is GTA like
oh wow,
Grand
you with
Theft
the
Auto, right?
segues. I love it. All right. Yeah, so
This
this
is
was an article that kind of blew up on Hacker News. I read it and I thought it was pretty good. So GTA Online has this really bad problem associated with loads.
hmm
So when you fire it up, there's a difference between GTA Online and GTA the sort of on your PC version. And what this gentleman, this engineer discovered was that it's due to parsing of JSON. So there's if you read through the
Wow.
article, well, it's not the fact that they're parsing JSON. It's more the fact that they're using a string library to determine or parse it. And there's some really bad decisions that were made. So ultimately, Rockstar have these really bad load times due to the fact that they're gone about parsing this JSON in a really non-performant way, to say
I
lightly.
love the comments here.
I know.
God's your hardware? Check. Not
Yeah.
cool. Sad.
Yeah. So what they're saying here is the average, they've done a survey of the users saying, what is your experience? And they're saying basically that the load times for firing up GTA Online uh, is not great. And so what this engineer did was using a combination of tools and techniques like being able to use a debugger and profiling and tracing and all that sort of stuff. He basically went backwards and found out or discovered that they were going about this problem using scanf, which is a string library for
Mhm.
scanning of characters, etc., looking for nulls and things like that. And it turns out that it actually did a lot more work than it needed to. And so, what this engineer did to test if this theory was correct was patch it. So he gave a new DLL using a different implementation and cut the time down from 6 minutes down to 1 minute for load times. And so now he's appealing to Rockstar to simply issue a patch so that everyone doesn't have to go through this. So there you can see there's the improvement, a 69% improvement in load time. So
Wow.
yeah, simply by patching that one DLL, this engineer was basically able to fix the problem. Now, the reason why I like this story is because one, it's well, he admits himself that in the article that he was a bit lucky, right? So he was through it. Sometimes you trace a program and you're like, I don't know what's going on here anymore. Like it's too hard. But other times you'll get lucky and you'll quickly make the connection of where the problem lies. And so what he did was make that connection early, and so was able to kind of trace it down and then try and issue a patch. And so he admits that, but at the same time, I think tenacity. I mean, debugging and profiling is all about tenacity and willingness not to give up. And I will hunt you down and find you. It's sort of like Liam Neeson in Taken. You have to
I
have that
use that
same kind of
phrase today.
attitude. Yeah,
It's
you have
so
to see.
funny you
You have to have
said
that
that.
same kind of attitude when debugging software. You have to be like, I don't know. You're talking to a bug. You're like, I don't know who you are, but I have very, very specific set of skills. I will
Uh,
find you and I will kill you. Sort of thing. So you have to have that same attitude when debugging software.
I
So
don't know
that's
if
what this.
my screen annotations are coming up, are they?
No, they're not. No.
Oh, okay. I gotta change my screen sharing mode back to normal next time.
Yeah.
I was pointing very heavily at the bottom of this page where it says, if you like what I do, consider buying me a coffee. And I
Right.
was typing on the screen, hey, Rockstar, if you're listening, this guy
Sure.
needs some serious coffee for this.
Oh, yeah. So believe me, like Hacker, this is the probably it's got over 3,500 votes on Hacker News. I am more than sure Rockstar has seen this, and so they're like, "Oops." So because this sort of thing, well, it shouldn't really happen. I mean, the reason why is
Yeah.
it's coming down the network, this JSON payload, and they're parsing it, but it just takes way too long. I'm really surprised that someone at Rockstar wouldn't be like, dude, what are we doing here? Like, why is this happening? This is taking way too long. What are we
Well,
doing? So,
this was actually an issue in Blazor
okay,
in 3.0 and 3.1, and JSON parsing just took a long time, and they had to make some changes. One of the changes was they went to JSON.NET, and then the other one was they changed out the runtime from Mono
sure,
to the .NET. Was it .NET FX Core is the new portable one?
okay,
uh, they changed that out and beefed up some of those times, and those JSON parsing times dropped by like 30%. But then you compound that with the fact that they upped the rendering speed as well, and you get kind of like a double whammy on the boost of those
yeah,
pages being rendered. So
yeah,
it
yeah.
can be a pretty big deal, especially if it's compounded by some other related issue.
I think we
Um,
found the page that was giving you grief. Try refreshing this. Maybe this is the reason why
is
you're
this
scrolling.
what's being hokey here?
Yeah, maybe. All right, whatever.
Okay.
So this is another link I found. So one of the long-standing sort of beefs I've had with Markdown is the fact that it's been very difficult to find things with that has to do with diagramming and such. And so this is sort of similar. Do you have these extensions in Markdown where you can add things like
Hmm.
flowcharts and such? This is a similar one of representing a flowchart as text. And so each line represents a node. Every connected line represents a or I guess an edge. And so you have
Yeah.
the ability to represent these textually. I think this is the high order bit for a lot of engineering diagrams and user documentation. These are the two classic scenarios that we encounter all the time. We need more diagrams in our docs.
Yeah.
However, they're too long. You've got too many docs to write, and these are too long to cook up in Photoshop or PowerPoint or whatever it is you're using. What we need is a mechanism that is common, that is standard, and is usable across the board that allows us to generate these things quickly via text. Now, the
Hmm.
good thing is that GitHub flavored Markdown like GitHub Markdown, etc. They're starting to add things like this, but I don't know why we haven't progressed better in this way. But anyways, this is a web chart, a website you can check out. It's called flowchart.fun and allows you to create these things pretty easily. It's available up on GitHub, etc. So I don't know why we haven't gotten better in this space where Markdown has more extensions. I would like to see it where we have a extension huge amount of extensions available and we can cook up these diagrams and other things very
Hmm.
easily using Markdown because I think this is a good thing. I think we need to have this ability in our documentation, but so be
Yeah.
it.
I've seen some of the other flavors of these type of things, and when I looked at the markup that created the flowchart part, I was like, there's no way. Like, I can hardly remember how to put an image inside of a link inside of Markdown.
That's right.
Like, there's
Is it
no
square
way.
brackets or is it brackets or braces first? I can't remember.
I don't know, but when it's an image with a link, like a link with a clickable, like an image with a clickable link on the image, it's like it's like Inception, just trying to get that to work.
Sure. Yeah, it's like
And
Lisp or Scheme. You start getting
yeah,
in these embedded brackets and yeah,
I feel like
it's
this is
fun.
like nuclear launch codes on
Okay.
not this version of it, but the other ones I've seen because they're like instead of it just being a little bit of text with a couple like colons to differentiate like where the nodes are, the other ones I've seen are like, dashes and arrows and
Yeah.
lambdas and, there's like these nuclear launch codes all like listed out on the left-hand side. I'm like, if I could remember all that, I'd have probably just gone into Photoshop or into PowerPoint and just
It's
sketched it
debatable. I
out
mean,
real
like,
fast.
we've been doing this in university forever, right? If you read any math paper, right, they use latex and things like that to generate the functions and formulas, the equations, basically. I don't see why we couldn't have something similar for common things across the board. But the problem is there's no universal agreement on them. So people come up with their own extensions and they're like,
Yeah.
well, it's not universally accepted, so they shrug it off and just move on. I think we need this. I think it would be good for us to have. Yeah, so what if it's not perfect? But it gets us moving forward, and I that's the whole point of Markdown is basically to keep things simple and to not worry about, okay, if I have to put an image here and link this section of the image. It would be nice if we had something better, but there you go.
Yeah. Sorry, I just noticed we had a couple comments and questions in chat. It was system.text.json that they went to on Blazor. I think they moved away from JSON.net. I might have transposed those when I said that. So I think I said those backwards, Chad. Um, yeah, they went to the whatever the .NET standard one that is across all of the .NETs now, which I think is system.text.json, is the
Well, correct me if
faster
I'm
way.
wrong. I think James, who wrote JSON.net, James Newsom, I think is
Newton,
working.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Newton. Sorry, he's working for Microsoft now, isn't he? And
Yeah, he's
he's
on the
working on that library.
ASP net team. Period.
Yeah.
I think he's on a
So I
lot
think
of different
that's
things.
yeah. I would imagine that they're probably going to move towards that and use his experience and expertise on that.
Yeah, he's an incredibly smart guy. So I don't think they have him pinned down to one project. They
You
kind of
do
put him on.
Jason. That's
Yeah,
all you're doing. I don't want to do Jason. You're doing it.
I think the last time I talked to him, he wasn't actually even on that. He was on
Oh,
something
okay.
else. But it doesn't mean he's not giving advice to some of these folks. Yeah, he's working on gRPC. Yeah, Chad's right there.
Okay.
gRPC. I
Cool.
knew it was something else. Um,
That'd be
and
hate.
this
I would hate that if you had that hanging around on your luggage cart for all time, right? Anyone who hires you is like,
good
yeah,
typecast.
I wrote this JSON library, and then everyone who hires you is like, can you fix our JSON? I'm like, oh God, can we just move on, please?
Yeah. Like I said, last time I talked to him, I think he was like, "Yeah, I'm not part of that."
Yeah, yeah, I
On
can see that.
purpose. Like, yeah, I know that's why you know me, but I'm working on gRPC now, so
It's like those bands that have that one hit that they are always asked to sing. This is why Billy Joel is like every time he's asked to play Piano Man, he has that look on his face where he's just like, God, again. I just want to, like if I was a rock star and had to sing a same song over and over again, I don't think I could make it. I think I'd either
speaking
like,
of being
yeah, sorry.
typecast, the one and only thing anybody probably knows me from these days, Blazor.
There you go.
Uh, so gotta gotta love the little dinosaur.
Sure.
And, is there some subtext here that I'm picking up on, like
I'm
Blazor's coming to make something
yeah,
extinct?
I'm guessing that that's a directive comet coming in to blow them up, I guess. I don't know.
Are
So
these Javasaurs? Is that what that is?
maybe something like that. Yeah.
JavaScriptosauruses?
There's definitely something going on there. There's a little bit of shade being thrown.
I
So
think so. I
yeah.
want to say there is. So I was part of this last year. It was a good event, and this is the first Blazor only event outside of Microsoft, I think, that's ran like a typical conference. It
Okay.
started virtual last year, and it's going to be virtual again this year. And they just started announcing dates and things for
Okay.
it, and
Cool.
pulling in call for speakers and whatnot. So the call for papers is open. Sponsorships are available and whatnot. I'm still trying to get my head around like the little dinosaurs move when I hover.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out what the Blazor is eliminating here. Like what little dinosaurs are these? Are these ASP.NET MVC dinosaurs? Are they? I think it's a
You,
thing
Ed,
that
you're the
it's.
dinosaur.
Yeah, that could be. That could be. They're
I don't know
COBOL
if they
dinosaurs.
may not be dinosaurs. They may be dragons, and maybe they've shot these fireballs everywhere. I don't know. The designer who
Since
came up with this is probably laughing at us, like, "Oh, it's so
yeah,
obvious. It should be X or Y." I'm like, "No,
that's my dog. No,
yeah. Well, that's
yeah,
that's an that's an at symbol, so that's what's that's a directive, is it not?
yeah. That's the Blazor icon.
Yeah,
Wait, no. I think if you're asking Microsoft lawyers, it is not an icon. It is a, I don't
a
remember, some
feeling.
other terminology they gave it, symbol
Okay,
or something like that. It's not an
all
icon.
right,
Icons require trademark this and that and some
right.
other law. And anyhow, there's the Edisaur and the Jonosaur getting ready to get
I'm the
blasted
guy who's
by
looking around.
the
Can we just
Blazor.
end this now, please?
Next, this is yours, John. NuGet
Sure. So
ecosystem.
yeah, so the actually what's really interesting is that everyone's coming out with these state of the blank now sort of statements, which I actually like a lot. They're kind of like an all up summary of what people are saying about the X or Y that's being state of. So we have state of JavaScript, state of CSS, state of .NET. Now we have state of the NuGet ecosystem. And so they queried about over 100 developers asking questions about NuGet, and this is an article that summarizes the result of that survey. And so basically, by and large, they've got to improve some things, but most people like NuGet and will continue to use it. But they summarize the results around package authoring, how to consume it, et cetera, et cetera. So just thought that would be interesting for people to take a look at.
Yeah. I remember back in the day, like, I don't remember what version of NuGet it was, but I wrote an article, like, it was one of the first articles I think I wrote for Progress Telerik. And I wasn't even, I was being very polite, and I was like, when you're authoring packages to NuGet, you should, have kind of like the NuGet user experience in mind. Don't put
Sure.
trash up there that you're not going to support, that sort of thing. And it was kind of just like a call to developers, like, this is a this NuGet package place is a really great ecosystem. Let's not muck it up. And
Yeah.
like people got upset. People were not happy about that. And it
Why?
wasn't like there's
Why'd they
no
get
ill
upset?
intent behind it even.
No, but
They're
you're
just like,
right.
how
I mean,
dare you tell me how to publish my NuGet
oh, shut
packages?
up. God, it's like a community garden. Like
Yeah.
everyone, like don't go in there and trash the place. Like you got to be nice about it
It's
and
like
do
this
the right
isn't a
thing.
place for like your hobby projects. Like
No,
GitHub's good
no,
enough for that. Like don't go throwing
yeah,
on NuGet. Because I saw what kind of a mess no offense, NPM folks. But
it
it's
is
a
a
mess.
mess.
It's a
It is
mess.
a mess.
I'm gonna
Own
call
it.
you out. It's a mess, and I was seeing like, let's not destroy NuGet the same way this npm thing is
I
going
see what
around.
you're saying. Okay, so
And
don't put your hello world up on NuGet and pollute the
yeah,
ecosystem. Okay.
I mean put useful stuff up there and maintain it. Was all I was saying.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
People
with
like,
you.
don't tell me what to do. Don't
Whatever.
tell me
God.
to wear a mask. Oh wait, I won't go there.
Jesus.
Not gonna go there. Went there and I came back. I'm
Okay.
back.
All right.
All right. Okay. The most missing features in C sharp.
Yeah, this is obviously an opinion piece. I don't know if I agree with the entire list, but
Hmm.
I thought it was interesting to kind of recognize more than just saying, okay, here's what the language provides. It's also helpful to say, here's what it doesn't provide, because there are many languages out there, and you
Hmm.
know, C sharp is by no means perfect. It's a great language, but it's not perfect. So definitely worthwhile kind of drawing these out and mentioning them. So talking about unions, talking about pipe operators, anonymous interfaces, which has been a long-standing request. That one I know about very well. So just thought it was interesting just to raise awareness around some of the issues that people may have seen in C sharp.
I'm I'm surprised this is the 8 things they fixed.
Oh, I
They
know. Like I said,
picked.
it's opinionated. So
It looks like it's a very F sharp opinionated thing too.
right,
And let's see. Let's see who's it about here. Oh, it says right here. Okay. So I'm not saying I disagree with these. I'm saying I have things I would possibly prioritize over some of these though. Um, so units, I can get on board with that one.
right.
Pipe operator, not so much. I mean, it would be nice, but we have the chaining ability in C sharp, and we also have the SQL syntax thing. What is that called? Did I name that right? What is that? You know what I'm talking
Which
about?
one?
The link syntax that's not chained. It's just like select, like you'd say it in SQL. Select from.
Fluent? Are you talking about the Fluent sort of
Oh
use of it, or
God,
Fluent API? I don't know what
syntax
you're talking about. Sorry.
types. uh, the query syntax versus the method syntax.
Oh, I see.
So we've already got 2 ways to express ourselves
Ah, yes. Sorry. Sorry.
in C sharp. So a lot of the F sharp folks like to come over to C sharp and muck it up with the
And make fun
method
of them.
or the. Am I making fun? I'm not making fun. I dislike this. I just it's not my personal preference. Where'd it go? Yeah, this one here. So you could say from, where, select, etc.
Yes.
I get confused when I see like peanut butter in my chocolate, and I'm like,
Sure.
what's going
Yep.
on here?
Yep.
So pipe
It's just
operator,
syntactic sugar. That's all it is.
yeah, pipe operator is less intrusive. I think I'd rather see pipe operator before this even. But
Hmm.
we've already got the 2 things. Do we need a third? Wondering.
I don't know.
Um, the one that I see missing from here that I would like to have is the either. Do you know what an either is? I'd
I'm
love
guessing
either.
it has to do with a switch statement. Either this or
Um,
that.
so you run into a lot of these scenarios in programming where the code you're writing can fail. So if you're writing a function and that function
Yes.
has the ability to fail,
Yes.
then let's say it's a function that returns. Let's say we're going to divide, and some idiot passes in a 0,
Zero.
and you,
Yes.
you divide by
Classic.
0, and error gets thrown. So you're not always going to get a number back. So
No,
you
but in that
can't
instance, I mean, we have
guarantee.
structured exception handling. You'd throw an exception, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and what do developers do with those?
They silently capture them and move on.
Exactly. So either lets us return two different types from a function. So you're
Oh,
going
you're
to
talking about,
say
yeah, you're talking about tuples being returned from
it's
functions. Yeah, yeah.
similar to a tuple or a tuple, however you want to pronounce that, but it's not. It's not the same thing.
So Go does
Because
this. By the
a
way, Go
tuple
has, yeah,
is both things, and
yes.
either is one or the other of those things.
I see. Okay, so Go does not have this. Sorry, I thought you were going down that route. Sorry.
So you can say this function is going to do an HTTP request, and it's going to get a list of foo, or it's either going to return an exception. And then the returning, the function that's calling that can say, okay, I'm either going to get back this thing, I can go display it on my screen, or I'm going to get back this other thing, and I need to handle that other thing.
So
And
rather
if
than being by convention, is what you're saying. Let me try and see if I can word this correctly. Rather than being by convention, which means because C# doesn't really have a good means of describing this, Java does, which is the throws keyword. But C#
Mhm.
does this by convention, where you have to have an implicit understanding of there's going to be an exception generated here. You're saying that the return type should be variant in the sense that it's either a structured type that I expect or it's some generic error or exceptional type. And
Yeah,
that's
so it's
where
actually
the either
an
comes in.
yeah, it's an either of T.
Oh, I
So
see.
it's either
Yep.
type or type, and you're
Yes.
going to get one of those things back. So you get the either back, and then
Yes.
you inspect the either to see which type it is. And if it's the success type, you go to your success path. If it's your fail type, you do your fail path. Everybody's happy, and you have to handle it, or it doesn't compile.
Right.
So you're kind of you're tied into making that thing happen, and you're not going to just throw it away because
So I'll come back to Go and I'll say that actually this is something that does happen in Go to a certain extent because you can return more than one variable in a function. And as a result, you have to handle an error case if it's returned as such. So, so this is called either in C#.
yeah, I'm trying to find the example here. This is
Okay.
a library. It's called Language Extensions. And
Yes.
whoever wrote this article, they would get probably at
A
least
lot of these
four out of
things.
the eight
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
items in here by
Yeah.
pulling this package in, plus a million other things.
Okay.
Let's see if it's under API reference in here. Um, ooh, this is pretty
We'll go
neat.
back to the main page. Let me see
But
if I can we can pair program this and see if we can figure out where it is. So
so
there's
there are, let's see if it's features. There we go. There's our either. So it's here's your either type. So you've got either the left or the right. Generally, this is the left side is the successful output. The right side is the failed output. And then when you write something like this, you say try get foo, and then it's dot with, or is it with? I'm trying to remember the right cast here.
has.
No, there's a keyword. Oh,
Okay.
maybe there's an example here. Look at this. There's option. Um, yeah, these are actually really great. I've used these before. Oh, come on. It's making for the longest show ever now.
That's fine.
Let's see. You can select for one. So you can select on an either.
Yes.
There's another keyword here I'm trying to find. Uh, Okay. Well, there is a keyword that just kind of it's the fork in the road. You get the branch for either side, and then you just pass the function for the left and function for the right, and then those functions run respectively based on what you got back. It's a very simple pattern to follow, and it's, in my opinion, easier to follow than a try catch, because the try catch is already baked in, and you're looking at the result of that try or the catch of that try. So good stuff there. Shoot, did the stream just cut for me for John?
Nah, my internet
I
went down.
lost you.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
See, that was an example
Of an either, right? Yeah,
of
exactly. If
the
internet is
catch.
available or not.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So actually, I think I have an example. We got a few minutes here, John. I will see if I can pull this up really fast. We were doing a stream a couple weeks ago where I was working with Blazor and I pulled this in for an example. And I said, why don't we just throw an either in
Oh, I
this
see.
example and see if we can use that instead. There we go. So here's your either. Let's zoom in here. I really like this feature if you haven't noticed. Um, so in my uploaded detect faces, this is taking your camera feed and sending it off to Azure Cognitive Services. And it says, go ahead and upload and detect a face and pass it the image. And you're going to get back, here's the keyword I couldn't remember, match. So it's going to match the pattern of the either, and it'll say you got a successful path back or you get a failed path back.
Okay.
So the success gives me back the data from cognitive services. The failed path gives me the exception it got back. And then we're going to go ahead and just show an error message with a pop-up box on this path. And if it's successful, we'll go ahead and just update our state. So it just does the two things, and they're both handled right there.
There you go.
It's similar to saying try, upload, and detect faces, catch.
Sure.
And then inside the try is this portion, and inside the catch is that portion. It's very similar, but this is a
Yeah.
little more structured.
Yeah. I like it. It's all right.
It's good stuff. It's worth pulling the library in for. So John, we'll leave on this note. What is
Yeah.
the final article here you've got posted?
Yeah. So it's an article written, and it was entitled "Make Your Job Suit You." And I think that I think this actually is a pretty good sort of I don't know what you would call it, a lesson, if you will, of how to basically be your own boss in the sense that you can do this within an organization. You can certainly appeal to folks that you're working for or the folks who are you're managing and get them to try and describe what it is you would like them to do. And so I think I've done this with people who I've managed before, which is listen, I don't want to work on building your strengths. I want to maximize your, sorry, I don't want to spend my time working on your weaknesses. I want to maximize your strengths. So it's sort of a philosophy of management as well as being an individual contributor of how can you go about having the job you want as opposed to the job you have. And
Mm-hmm.
so this article goes into that saying, listen, you can take the time to say, listen, I'm really good at writing, or I'm really good at, using language extensions. So I should maximize my time doing those sorts of things, and here's how I can apply it. Now, obviously, there's going to be some negotiation involved on either end, right? Whether you're a manager or an individual contributor, but I think it's worthwhile having the conversation. So for the folks who are watching this interview, sorry, for this stream, and they're thinking about their job, I think it's worthwhile going to your boss or going to your directs and saying to them, listen, I really think we can maximize your effectiveness by adjusting slightly, or we can find you a new role, or I'm going to, leave the job and apply myself in a different role like that. But you should try and go after the job you want or the role you want as opposed to the one you have. And so this is a great article, I think, that reinforces that point and tries to make it such that people who are in those roles, whether you're an individual contributor or manager, can take this and apply it.
I agree. There, I've shifted directions in my career so many times based on this type of behavior. So I wasn't always a software engineer. You heard me say that at the beginning of the show. Like I was working on these electronics projects, and it was a matter of just convincing my boss with the right example. So you might have heard me say this before, but I was given I had a EEPROM programming facility inside of a manufacturing environment, and they're like, "You're going to run this EEPROM programming thing," and it was so antiquated in there. They were running everything off of hard coded our hard copy papers and floppy disks being shuffled around, and this was the age of the internet already. And I went in there and wrote an app in VB and eliminated like probably 30 hours of my 40-hour work
Sure.
week. And I brought my boss over and I was like, yeah, this place runs itself now. And he was like, well, what are you going to do with the rest of the time?
Do something
Now
else
that
or see ya.
I was like, I don't know, but I had fun writing that app. So I was like, if you got any more problems for me to fix, then
Yeah.
let me see if I can take a stab at it. And
And
I
and
wrote
as a
like,
manager, who wouldn't want someone like that?
yeah,
When a person comes to me and says, "Listen, I'm really good at this," or "I really feel passionate about that. I want to do this." I'm like, go do. If it's as long as it meets the criteria of this will help the organization or firm that I'm working with, and will make us better as a company. Absolutely, I would love that. And it's you find it. I find it surprising. It's kind of like I find my kids are the same way. Like, what do you want to do? And it's like, I don't know. How was school? I don't know. It's always the I don't know. I'm like, have an opinion, like,
yeah,
you treat your job role the same way. Like you should. It's like, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to work on? I don't know. It's like, well, you must be good at something, right? Like if whether it's like low level, high level, UI, back end, doesn't matter. Like if you really feel strongly against, I want to put, as a manager, I want to place you there so you can be most effective and happy. Or if I'm an individual contributor, I'm like, I want to pursue X because I find I'm really good at it and I find it super interesting. And I'm not programming EPROMs and things like that. I'd rather
yeah,
work on problems, fixing problems, which is that is the number one goal I think as anyone who's working for an organization is to try to maximize the effectiveness of the group. This is why we work in groups. This is why animals roam in herds. They're trying to maximize the effectiveness of the herd, whether it's protection, finding food, whatever. You're working in a group for a reason, so you want to make sure you're the most productive person in your role. It would be awful if Einstein had maintained his clerk status and didn't choose to pursue a role in theoretical physics, right? So yeah, it's the same idea.
yeah. Yeah, I ended up boiling the ocean a few times at that place, but it all worked out in my favor.
Okay.
Because you fix one problem, they're like, well, all right, fixed that problem and did a good job on this other one.
Right.
Let's throw them at like the biggest thing we got. And it was like,
Sure. Why
I
not?
spent months like by myself creating some insane app that I would never try to take on these days.
No,
And
but let me ask you, like you were engaged, right?
yeah, I was like, I can
Yeah,
do
and
this.
what happened? What was the outcome of that endeavor?
I got a $15 gift card.
I understand. I'm not talking about monetary. I'm talking about to the firm, to the organization you were working for. What was the
Uh,
outcome?
so one time it was thousands of dollars
Saved?
in saved in what do you call it? Scrap material that we weren't producing anymore. So it solved a problem that was
So
generating
there you
tons of
go.
scrap. And
So
then
there
the
you
other
go.
time
You
it
as an
was a multi-million-dollar contract with NASA that we
There you
won.
go. So you as an individual contributor went to your manager and said, "I want to work on solving bugs, fixing bugs, solving problems, whatever sort of way you want to define it. And I feel passionate about this and I'm good at it. Apparently no one else can do it, evidently. So that speaks to this article, which is you take an active role in your job, you will go far. If you just are just collecting a pay, there's nothing wrong with just collecting a paycheck, by the way. So if you're just doing your job, and you're doing it well, that's fine too. So please don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. But I'm saying for the folks who take the slightest sort of motivation behind this and apply it to their job role and say, listen, I know you've got me working on this library thing. I think it's mostly baked. I think I'd be most like I wouldn't do it like as a whim. I wouldn't say like I kind of feel like I want to do X or Y. I'd be like, no, I'm good at X or Y, and I think you would maximize your return on paying me a salary by putting me on that. That's part of taking the initiative associated with this article. The other aspect of this is as a manager, it is your job to make sure you've got the most effective people in the places that are required, and you're trying to maximize the
Mhm.
efficiency of the people working under you. So I would say as a manager, be open and receptive to that as well.
Yeah, I'd say one last bit of advice that goes with this is know the business too, not
Yes,
just the role.
yes,
So sure, you might be a great whatever DevOps or Blazor programmer or front end guy or whatever, but know the business too. So
yes,
whatever widget y'all are making, if you have that business knowledge too, you're going to go a lot further
sure.
than just the dev stuff.
Yep,
So I know way more than I'd ever care to know about oil pipeline enclosures and
cool.
truck axles and all the other bizarre things that we built at
Yes,
these factories I worked at. But
yes.
I was able to get people to listen because I could speak their language.
Here, here.
All right, John. The old man rants are over, and the old man
It's not
stories
a
are all
rant.
told.
It's a passionate cry for people to do this. I think once you start doing this, I think you'll be nothing but a good thing for you because it forces you to face the realities of what you're doing, I think, and take ownership.
And John and I did it walking both ways uphill in the snow.
Okay, maybe you did.
Okay, fighting koalas.
Sure.
Uh, Anyhow, it was a good one, John. We'll be back next week.
Yes.
Wednesday, I have Blazor Power Hour, and then Thursday I am starting for the second time. For the second time, the first time for the second time, a VR stream. So,
Okay.
John, I think you were a saboteur last week. I don't know how. I'm gonna find out how, and
Fine.
I'm gonna be mad when I
Okay.
find out how. But I'm like, we're gonna try out this brand new VR platform from Facebook, and I put my VR headset on, and their platform was down.
Oh,
I've used this thing for like 10 hours prior and not had it go down once. And as soon as I'm like live stream, it goes down.
were you
So I'm gonna
parsing
try that
JSON at the time?
again. No, I wasn't parsing anything because the service was
Okay.
down. So I was streaming basically a big black empty box with a loading screen on it, and it
Perfect.
went terrible. So we're gonna try that again this week, and hopefully it's not out. And Thursday we'll do some VR game development. Um, I talked about it a little bit on the show, but the cool part about the game development environment is that it is in VR. You're developing the game you're standing in with the tools you're standing in VR, and then might actually have somebody join me for some pair programming on that.
A
And
teaser.
what's really neat about the pair programming part, John, you'll have to enjoy this part. I know you're not a big fan of VR, but the person pair programming up to I don't know how many people it supports are in VR with you, looking at the tools with you in VR.
Perfect.
So you are virtually standing and looking at a screen together, and like I can build a widget and hand it to you, and you can continue to build the widget. It's very interactive and neat. So we'll have some fun with that. That's on Thursday, and then Alyssa has a show on Friday. TJ also on Wednesday. Just hit follow, a little button, little heart. Click that thingy, and you'll get updates on all that stuff. So I don't have to keep saying it. Does that sound good?
Cool.
All right. All right. We'll let you go. Have fun,
Okay.
everybody.
See you guys.